It was a beautiful, sunny day in Charlestown, West Virginia, which is an extremely haunted town, by the way, thanks to the Civil War. My friend Steve and I had just gotten off work, and we went up to my apartment to just chill out. And so we sat on the couch, cracked a few beers open, well, just one for me and one for him, because we didn't have much time to drink, because what happened next was terrifying. A shadow being moved right between me and the couch and placed itself between us and the TV. And then it communicated with us, or at least me, because Steve never told me his version of the story. But the communication that I got was that everything that I had known or grew up to know was wrong. And it was speaking in the religious sense. The funny thing is it wasn't speaking, but it was more or less communicating through feelings and imagery. It was terrifying, and we don't even know what happened, because before that thing could disappear, Steve and I looked at each other, we got up, and we left the apartment. We closed the door behind us, and Steve asked me, "What are you gonna do now?" And I told him, "I don't know about you, but I'm going down to the American Legion, and I'm gonna have myself, well, more than a few beers. I'm gonna drink." So that's what we did. Because that night, I had to go to sleep on that couch. Now listen, I know that there's drinking involved, but at the time that this sighting happened, I was only about halfway through my first beer. And it was crazy enough to drive us out of that apartment, and I wanted to forget everything because, like I said, I had to sleep on that couch that night. I'll never forget that. It's my own story, and if you guys have your own story that you would like me to read before one of the podcasts, go ahead and send it to me via email. You can find my email in the channel description. With that being said, guys, welcome to episode 2 of Unidentified.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Nice to be in orbit.
In the first part of this podcast, we did a deep dive into Patrick Jackson's The Sphere Network, where he dives into poltergeist activity and basically debunks it. And he debunks it in a sense, not to say that poltergeist activity doesn't happen. He means that it's not connected to anything spiritual. It's connected to more of something technological. He proposes that these spheres that are basically seen during poltergeist activity are a network of drones that are actually active around this whole planet. What he theorizes is that these drones are operated by ultra-terrestrials. And I'm not talking about extra-terrestrials, beings from outer space. Ultra-terrestrials, as in beings that we've been sharing this planet with ever since we've been here. So what we're going to do in part 2 is go through the second half of the book and find out why he believes that to be the case. And of course, I'm going to give you guys my opinion as we go, and I'd like to hear your opinions as well. And if Patrick Jackson's theory is anywhere close to being correct, then we've never been alone on this planet. Quick note before we continue. Everything discussed in this episode is presented for discussion and exploration purposes only. The experiences, theories, and interpretations we're talking about are personal accounts and hypotheses, not established scientific facts. This podcast is not here to tell you what to believe. It's here to explore why people believe what they believe and what those beliefs might say about the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unknown. I encourage you to stay curious, stay skeptical, but at the same time, keep an open mind and draw your own conclusions. Before we go any further, I just wanted to say, if you are a new subscriber on this channel, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And normally our videos are investigative videos where my girlfriend Daisy and I actually go out into the field, we go to haunted locations, and we do investigations where you actually get to see that and we show you the results. It's very interactive. Whereas in this podcast, I'm obviously just kind of sitting in a studio and doing a deep dive and talking. This podcast is not here to replace those videos. Those videos with Daisy and I will always be the flagship videos of this channel. The truth is, though, is we haven't been able to do those in a while because Daisy sprained her ankle and she needs to rest up and stay off of it so that, we can be active. But I wanted to create this podcast as a place where we can be more interactive in the sense of, I want to hear your opinions, and I want to be able to do more deep dives with you guys and open up to you guys and talk to you guys about my opinions on these sorts of things. And I figured this would be a great way to do it and do it consistently. So if you guys are into the creepy, the mysterious, or high strangeness in general, go ahead and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel if you're not currently subscribed, because, we'll be giving you guys at least one podcast a week. And my goal is to also give you guys at least one investigation a week. But for a while, it's looking like we might be getting one investigation every 2 weeks and a podcast every week. Either way, it's going to be really active. I'm looking forward to this year. And I hope that you guys will come along the journey with me. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into the second half of The Sphere Network by Patrick Jackson. So chapter 11 is titled The Architectural Overview. And basically, in the last chapters, he clarified that these spheres are actually most likely drones. And so in this chapter, he basically explains how they're operating. And he says, to clarify and distinguish the spheres, we will now label these drones as Type 3 spheres. The Type 3 spheres appear to be the smallest of the variants. We've identified an artificial object referred to as a Type 3 sphere operating within 30 East Drive, and its characteristics closely resemble those of the Foo Fighter objects observed during World War II. Now, if you didn't see part one of this podcast, 30 East Drive is basically known as being the most haunted house in the UK. And Patrick Jackson and two of his cameramen basically spent 4 nights in this house investigating the poltergeist activity reported there, and they got results, which is why we got this book. So going further, he says, also explained are the potential side effects of proximity to these Type 3 spheres when they are active, providing a solid rationale for the use of paranormal-like actions to discourage people from approaching such areas. This also explains why new buildings with no historical background can become active, as the dynamic network can shift from one location to another. These active homes or areas can be thought of as hard nodes, essentially serving as relay stations that constitute the foundational infrastructure of this system, uplinking when necessary. To address emission concerns, these entities make use of the interiors of buildings for broadcasting, as building materials act as a shield masking themselves from detection. Very interesting. So if I'm understanding that correctly, he's basically saying that the orbs, which are basically kind of like little drone satellites, are using the buildings as a protection so that the emissions aren't as detectable. I guess you would have to be actually in the building as they're emitting their transmission to detect that. So it is essential to recognize that the behavior of these spheres does not conform to typical human reasoning patterns. We actually spoke about that in the first part, whereas, these orbs or ghosts or whatever, If they were ghosts, they don't follow human patterns. My whole rebuttal on that is that a ghost is no longer a human, it's a spirit, and we don't know the thinking patterns of a ghost. But I digress. Let's go further. Humans inherently seek social connections and group interactions, while these spheres demonstrate a pattern of avoidance and limited engagement, interspersed with occasional physical activities. Given this distinct behavior, a logical hypothesis can be formulated. Many poltergeist phenomena reported since the 1st century, which exhibit the same or similar behavioral signatures, could plausibly be attributed to the activities of Type 3 spheres. This suggests a non-human origin for these occurrences, underscoring a significant deviation from human behavioral norms. So I thought this was really interesting. He then basically goes on to describe the preferred environments for these orbs, which are mostly empty buildings, but he goes on to say that empty buildings or uninhabited locations may be ideal for conduits for the network, as they allow for fewer interruptions and less interference with human activity. This minimizes the likelihood of delays and improves the efficiency of data transmission. Wow, okay. He basically summarizes this up by saying that the Type 3 network can be understood through two main structures: lines and clusters. Lines serve as the primary connections, while clusters function as secondary links. This network spans multiple countries and adapts to its environment, often favoring empty buildings for routing. The Type 3 sphere primarily follows a main route with a backup route in the surrounding area. The primary route acts as the main data channel, transmitting a high volume of signals and triggering actions that drive people away. If this primary route is obstructed by buildings or human activity, the sphere automatically switches to the secondary route. This transition may result in intermittent paranormal activity in nearby buildings. This dynamic explains why some locations remain consistently active, while others experience brief, sporadic activity before returning to normal. Technically, this is referred to as multipath routing, including concepts like alternate path selection and route recalculation, which are commonly used protocols in today's modern world. This model explains why people living near active buildings occasionally experience unexplained events in their own homes. Periodically, the signal is rerouted from the primary line to a secondary one, prompting actions from the Type 3 spheres that are intended to influence people's movements. These actions are designed either to keep individuals in a specific location or to guide them to another area. For instance, if a glass suddenly shatters in the kitchen, it might require immediate cleanup, effectively holding the person in place while the sphere's burst signal is relayed safely from an upper area of the house. He then goes on to say that these emissions might also explain the phenomena some refer to as paranormal hangover, which I have experienced. It's not me, Patrick Jackson. Excuse me. Exposure to the microwave and gamma emissions from these spheres could lead to mild radiation poisoning affecting brain and nervous system functions. In a manner akin to using deterrents to keep animals from hazardous areas, these spheres appear to employ subtle forces to repel people. Phenomena often interpreted as supernatural, such as doors slamming or objects moving, may actually be strategic actions by these spheres to maintain safe distances from humans. So as far as the whole doors slamming thing, that's definitely an effective method to scare the hell out of someone, because if you've never experienced that before, which I have, I've had a door slam on me out of nowhere, no airflow going through the room or anything like that. No reasonable explanation for it other than something slammed the door that in a room where I was the only person present. That's an effective way to move somebody away from that location, because it scared the hell out of me when it happened. But anyways, if you have actually experienced that, a door slamming on you, I would like to hear your story in the comments below. Let me know. Let's move on, shall we? The compact, baseball-sized Type 3 sphere typically operates close to the ground and within buildings, where its activities are more localized. In contrast, the larger Type 2 sphere is often observed hovering or flying a few hundred feet above the ground. These Type 2 spheres frequently remain stationary in the air at a single location for extended periods before swiftly relocating to another position. Additionally, these spheres have been observed forming coordinated sequences in the sky, particularly over mountainous or rugged terrain. This phenomenon, known as Desi chaining, involves the spheres aligning or moving in a sequential pattern, potentially to enhance communication or navigation across challenging environmental topologies. That was a mouthful, but basically what he's saying is that, these spheres all being part of a network, the Type 2 spheres can move around to basically get better reception. Simply put, for us lay people. And what are they getting better reception for? Well, basically to relay the message from Type 3 to the Type 1 spheres is what I'm thinking, but we're about to get to that. These sphere types appear to function as dynamic nodes, effectively acting as mobile data relays capable of repositioning themselves as needed. The Type 2 spheres serve as intermediaries connecting to the smaller Type 3 spheres within buildings. These smaller spheres manage localized data networks, while the Type 2 spheres amplify and relay the microwave signals to the Type 1 spheres, which operate at much higher altitudes. So basically what I just said, the Type 3 spheres are relaying, or the Type 3 spheres are transmitting to the Type 2, which are then relaying that message to the Type 1 that are higher in the atmosphere. So, like terrestrial microwave-based networks, these spheres must navigate around physical barriers like hills and mountains that block direct line-of-sight signals. By adapting their positioning to work around environmental topology, the system ensures uninterrupted data transmission and robust connectivity. During the recent U.S. Congress UAP hearing, it was disclosed that these spheres have been tracked performing extraordinary maneuvers, including instantaneous acceleration from standstill to Mach 2. This remarkable capability suggests that the system relies on ultra-fast data processing and precision synchronization. Any delay in calculations or data transmission could critically impact the network's functionality, particularly, thank you, during high-speed maneuvers or adapting positioning tasks. Look, guys, bear with me here because this book is very technical, and it's a mouthful at times to read this. So if you appreciate the work that I'm doing here, go ahead and give a like. And excuse me while we move on. For this global network to function, it would logically require active maintenance and updates, implying a continuous effort to deploy, adapt, and optimize its components. This raises the possibility of a secondary presence, a permanent subterranean ultra-terrestrial species responsible for building, maintaining, and evolving this intricate network. Such an entity would need to operate globally, potentially interacting with or adapting to Earth's environment while remaining largely undetected. So in the book, he goes on to show a post that he made with some data where basically it says, newsflash, this is one of my tests. Just weeks ago, a 1.6 gigahertz signal was detected, burst relaying at 30 East Drive, the site of the notorious poltergeist in the UK. This same frequency, also found at Skinwalker Ranch, is present in haunted buildings worldwide. So he's able to basically connect this to not just 30 East Drive, but this is connected to paranormal hotspots all over the place. And then he goes on in the book to say that these parallels suggest a potential global pattern of activity with localized hotspots where the underlying infrastructure of this network may be operating or tested. The consistent detection of these phenomena across such diverse locations strengthens the case for a sophisticated, possibly ultra-terrestrial network that's spanning the globe. Does it have to be ultra-terrestrial, or could it be the Men in Black? It's a little question I'd like you to consider, because there are things operating beyond what we understand. Organizations, people, you have the FBI, obviously, the three-letter agencies, the CIA, the things that you know that they do, the things that you will never know that they do. But then you have the other agencies, the ones that you'll never know about, and they do exist. I promise you that. Does it have to be ultra-terrestrial? Who knows? Now, if the technology is so advanced, chances are it would be extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial. Most likely ultra-terrestrial, because Patrick Jackson hypothesizes that these orbs are defending Earth from outside invaders, which he has evidence for. We're going to check that out a little bit later in this podcast. Or if the Men in Black are functioning, Men in Black, whatever you want to call them, are functioning on this planet, maybe that could be them as well. Just maybe. So, like the Type 2 and Type 3 spheres, the Type 1 spheres exhibit distinct flight behavior while maintaining a consistent physical appearance, flight dynamics, and stealth capabilities. They appear to be larger variants of the same underlying technology and design. The key characteristics are the size, which are approximately 2 to 6 meters in diameter, their formation, which are 3 spheres from a precise V-shaped configuration in the sky, which alternates between 2 distinct modes, the vertical formation, where the V shape stands upright, perpendicular to the ground, and the horizontal formation. The V shape lies flat, parallel to the ground. The entire V formation operates as a cohesive unit capable of rotating and pivoting seamlessly. The spheres maintain fixed relative positions, suggesting advanced coordination and collective movement capabilities. The configuration of these spheres facilitates precise three-dimensional tracking of objects, showcasing an advanced level of coordination and technological sophistication. The arrangement suggests an intelligent design likely optimized for dynamic spatial tracking and targeting at hypersonic speeds. Could this have something to do with the plane that disappeared that everyone's been talking about? So if you don't know about this, I forget the name of the plane exactly, but everyone's saying it's the MH whatever plane, the MH37. Let me look this up here. MH plane that disappeared. MH370. So that basically makes me think of this whole MH370 debacle that people have been talking about, where, if you haven't seen it yet, basically a military drone caught footage of 3 orbs triangulating on a passenger plane, which a lot of people are speculating to be the MH370 plane that disappeared years ago. Because what happens in this video, if you're listening to the podcast and not watching it, I'll explain it. What you're seeing here on the screen is basically a video of 3 orbs approaching a plane, rotating around the plane, and then the plane just disappears. And this footage has caused so much controversy, and people have tried to sweep this under the rug in so many different ways, but it's been proven time and time again that this looks to be pretty legit, and the signs are there. The cover up and all of it is there. And in fact, that could be its own podcast on its own. So we're not going to go any further into it, but that basically reminded me of this. And could it be that there was some kind of a threat on that plane? And maybe that's why these orbs took that thing out? Or maybe the video is just totally fake. Who knows? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. Let's go ahead and jump back into the book. This mathematical arrangement allows the spheres to either monitor or conduct identification tests on nearby jets, categorizing them as friend or foe. You see what I'm saying? Let's read through that again a little bit slower. This mathematical arrangement allows the spheres to either monitor or conduct identification tests on nearby jets, categorizing them as friend or foe. So again, not to get off subject, but what if these spheres around that plane categorize that plane as a threat? Maybe not because of what it was doing, but maybe because of who or what was on it. I feel like we'll never know, but we can always speculate in the comments down below. So he then goes on to talk about the trigger processes, which I found extremely interesting. It seems that the spheres utilize high-resolution photonic comparative algorithms to detect specific external UAP signatures. One such signature is atomic light, which occurs when a high-energy field interacts with atmospheric gases, energizing the molecules and causing them to emit light. This phenomena, often observed as a faint glow around the craft's shell, is a common feature in UAP sightings. Another signature involves unusual air traffic patterns, particularly evident during air shows where jets perform atypical maneuvers. These deviations from normal flight patterns activate the sphere's rule-based AI systems, prompting them to conduct friend or foe tests. This response underscores the advanced capabilities of these spheres in adapting to and interpreting environmental stimuli. Now, he then goes on to basically show photos, diagrams, and evidence that he's compiled to support all of these claims. I'm not going to go ahead and show all of those here. I don't want to just blast out all of his work for free or anything like that. And I would suggest actually... I'm going to go ahead and plug his book for him, even though I've never met the guy or anything. He seems to be genuinely passionate about this subject and actually coming from a place of, well, he's coming from a very genuine place here. And I don't think he's a Lou Elizondo type of person. If you know who Lou Elizondo is, he's basically... I mean, he's the perfect example of somebody grifting for money, writing a book for money, and basically repeating information that we all have already known and heard, and sensationalizing that to sell, you know? But Patrick Jackson seems to be legitimate, in my opinion. And so I would suggest, if you're interested in all of this, actually buying the book, actually ordering the book, and actually going through it, because even though I'm going through a lot of it, there's a lot that I'm not going through. But I am trying to get his story across enough so that his story is supported and his hypothesis is that we can actually support what he's saying and that you can get enough of that in. I'm talking too much again. Let's move on. So Patrick Jackson then goes on to explain threat scenarios. What would a threat scenario be to this system? An example of threat scenarios would be, well, suppose an asteroid or a hostile object is detected on a collision course with Earth. The spheres stationed globally would 1. Detect the object early using advanced sensors, 2. Calculate its trajectory using AI to determine the optimal interception point, 3. Engage the threat at hypersonic speeds using field-based propulsion to maneuver into position. And 4. Neutralize the object using advanced weapons such as DEWs, which are direct energy weapons, or kinetic impactors. Wow. Kinetic impactors. I would love to see an example of that. At face value, this network could function much like a technical version of the human immune response system, where spheres operate similarly to white blood cells swarming around perceived threats. Just as white blood cells swarm to attack viruses, these spheres seem to converge on areas where external interference, whether from people, objects, or other sources, could disrupt their communication or signal flow. The actions we perceive as paranormal might be the sphere's way of neutralizing disturbances in the same way our immune system defends against threats. I believe I have presented a compelling case for further research based on mathematical analysis, logical deductions, and consistent visual evidence from images and footage. The patterns observed, particularly in that word, you're going to notice if you keep watching this podcast, I have such a problem with the word particularly. So just roll with it here. The patterns observed, particularly in the positioning and behavior of the Type 2 and Type 1 spheres, suggest that this system may function as a global defense network. The combination of strategic placement, dynamic data relaying, and potential weaponized applications indicates a sophisticated network designed for high-level surveillance and threat interception. And this is wild. Patrick Jackson was actually able to find footage of the Sphere network intercepting an external craft caught accidentally by Cody Stark. He links the video here in the book. And so let's check it out here real quick.
I'm going to be filming that planet just right there, okay? Now check this out. I've never seen this before, and I'm actually surprised my phone's doing this. But, check this out. Oh my God, it blew up. What the hell? Something just blew the hell up. It was orbiting, and now it blew up, and it's in outer space, and it's no longer there.
So take note of the V formation. This formation aligns with the horizontal configuration detailed in the diagrams, indicating that the target is oriented vertically. That is the Sphere network in action. So for me, that is amazing footage. And if you're not watching and you're just listening to the podcast, to explain what happened here, this guy Cody, I guess he makes videos with his telescope, and he was going to film what he thought was a planet. He looked away from his telescope for a minute, and as he looked back into the telescope, what he had noticed is the planet, quote unquote, had exploded. And you can also see a couple of orbs. I would say like you can visibly see 2 orbs, and there's probably a third one in there somewhere. But it's some pretty crazy footage. Now, if that's actually the Sphere network in action or not, maybe it's some kind of a Cold War style rocket explosion going on. Who knows? But apparently the skies were clear that day, and there weren't any rockets going up. And the thing that exploded definitely wasn't a rocket either, because it doesn't leave any trails like a rocket does, so, and it wasn't moving like that either. So this looks like, logically it could actually be either technology that we've never seen before that the government has, and we're seeing that at play in the sky, or it is, these super advanced spheres created by ultra-terrestrials defending the planet from extraterrestrials with ill intentions. I mean, this just keeps getting crazier and crazier, but let's keep going. So then, to drive home the whole "these orbs are not spirits" thing, Patrick Jackson then goes on to explain that the traditional paranormal researchers and how they explain the significance of different colors in the orbs, along with his comments on each description. So basically, what the paranormal researchers, what they say the colors of orbs mean versus what he says the colors of the orbs mean. So for clear orbs, Paranormal researchers say that clear orbs may indicate that an entity is attempting to communicate with you. They could signify that a spirit wants to convey that a significant event occurred in that location and seeks assistance in moving on. Now, I would love to know where they get that whole idea. Like, where did that come from? Where? Like, who said that? Where's the evidence supporting it? Well, Patrick Jackson says that the silver spheres, or the clear orbs, the silver spheres operating in a quantum or transmedium state visually resemble moving bubbles that appear to flex or distort. Bubbles being clear. So silver, but looks clear. Let's move on. White or silver orbs. Spiritually, white or silver is associated with spirituality and a connection to a higher source. Orbs that are white or silver may suggest that a spirit is trapped on this plane or that they are there to offer protection to those nearby. White energy is generally perceived as highly positive. Or, Patrick Jackson says that the spheres operating on their normal state appear as smaller silver balls, while the white discharge results from a combination of energized gases. You guys getting it here? So they're giving spiritual explanations that we don't know where these explanations even came from, and he's giving scientific explanations. Let's go on. Black or brown orbs. So spiritually, black or brown colors are often linked to lower spiritual vibrations or heavy energy. While some may interpret them as evil, this is not necessarily the case. The appearance of black or brown orbs may indicate that the area could be unsafe or negative, prompting caution. Or spheres operating in what could be described as stealth mode appear as small, solid, black, non-reflective spheres. This sphere mode appears to block photons, light, from reflecting off of their surfaces, resulting in an extremely super black appearance. Kind of like the black color of the shadow figure that I saw was just like, it was like a black that I've never seen before in my life. And the shadow was not on the wall. It was in the middle of the room and absorbing all of the light. Red or orange orbs. From a spiritual perspective, red and orange colors are associated with safety, security, and a sense of belonging. In the context of ghost orbs, they may indicate a protective presence. Or, red is linked to oxygen, while orange is associated with phosphorus gas. Green orbs. Green is connected to the heart and nature in spiritual practices. Green orbs may suggest the presence of a human spirit or signify love and oneness with nature. Or, green is associated with chlorine gas, which was terrifying back in World War I. Blue orbs. Blue is spiritually linked to psychic energy, truth, and a calming presence. Some associate blue orbs with spiritual guidance or the presence of a spirit guide. Or, blue is connected to nitrogen, plain and simple. Pink orbs. Pink orbs are often seen as messengers of love, conveying messages of encouragement, hope, peace, and love from spiritual sources, whether universal or specific. But pink is actually a variable atomic color resulting from a combination of low amounts of gases. He then goes on to summarize that traditional researchers may have mistakenly identified these spheres of light as spiritual entities. The phenomena of orbs, commonly associated with paranormal entities in research, could potentially be clarified as a product of the interaction between gases and electrical currents, likely a byproduct of the sphere's field-based propulsion system. So that's it, guys. That's the colors explained. So in the next chapter, he talks about the observable deployment process. So where are these things coming from? Or where are they hiding? And he goes on to say that the question is whether these spheres are small, drone-like machines, and if so, where they might be deployed from. An intriguing video filmed by Pedro Hernandez in Mexico on May 22, 2009, offers potential insights into sightings of unusual objects in the sky. The footage shows hundreds of small, drone-like objects appearing in various states, sparking speculation about their origin. It captures a mysterious object over Mexico City, raising questions about the true nature of these entities. Now, this whole little part here actually kind of reminds me of a post that I saw on Reddit where somebody was talking about these orbs coming out of this place somewhere in South America, I believe. So, story time. This was posted by user Bortaki34. I hope I said the name right. And it's titled, "The Cauldrons of Yakutia. The Cauldrons of Yakutia, an ancient planetary defense system in the Siberian Valley of Death." So I was wrong. It's not South America. It's in the Siberian Valley of Death in Siberia. Let's go ahead and read through this. Deep in the Siberian wilderness along in the Viloy River basin lies an area known by the locals as Uluyu Cherkechich. In English, it's the Valley of Death. For centuries, local legends and modern discovery reports have pointed to an incredible mystery in this region regarding the Ogoys, massive structures made of a reddish metal that resemble giant overturned pots buried in the ground. Locals claim this mysterious metal is as sharp as a razor and it inexplicably never rusts. The physical effects reported by those who encounter them are chilling. There are numerous accounts of hunters who stayed inside or near these cauldrons, suffering from hair loss, developing sores that wouldn't heal, and falling into a deadly weakness. All classic symptoms of radiation poisoning. Sound familiar? Because this is sounding a lot like the Sphere Network. These eerie reports are often linked to even older tales of one-eyed giants in metal suits living beneath the structures, leading modern researchers to suggest they may be part of an ancient, automated, robotic system. The most provocative theory regarding their purpose is that these cauldrons act as a protective shield for Earth, which is basically this all lines up to the Sphere Network at this point. It is claimed that they form an automated defense system designed to intercept celestial threats such as the massive 1908 Tunguska explosion, which some believe was caused by a plasma sphere fired by this very system. That lines up as well. While geologists in the 1930s and researchers like Ivan McCarroll in 2006 used GPR and drilling to detect hard metallic dome-shaped structures beneath the marshes, a full excavation has never been completed, leaving the true nature of the Valley of Death buried under the Siberian permafrost. And again, if you're just listening to the podcast and you're not watching, the photos of this cauldron, basically, the way I can describe it is it looks like a gigantic anthill sticking out of the treetops. And not just like a little bit out of the treetops, but it's got to be at least maybe 100 meters out of the treetops. So it's pretty obvious that it's there. And then of course there's also a description, or I should say a visual reconstruction of the inside scheme of one of these cauldrons, which was recreated by a local villager. And yeah, it looks like in the middle there's a spiral staircase, and once you go down into it, it's actually the inside of the cauldron is in a UFO shape, your classic UFO saucer shape, which looks like there are more rooms leading to other places, which who knows where those could lead. But yeah, basically it looks like a giant anthill in the middle of Siberia that spits out plasma orbs. I just wanted to kind of interject that in there because that's very on topic for this podcast. So let's go ahead and get back to the book. And so apparently there are 2 steps to deployment. Step 1 being the process begins with a single airborne object tilting to the left and releasing 3 spherical units from its side. Once deployed, these spheres appear to create a network forming a rotating triangular formation. Step 2 is the main deployment stage, where the object tilts to the right and releases a batch of approximately 50 to 100 spheres. The specific design of the craft likely influences how these spheres are ejected. Interestingly, these deployed spheres are only visible under infrared light, remaining undetectable to the naked eye. A similar phenomenon has been noted in haunted locations where these spheres are seen under infrared, passing through walls and moving through rooms. A second deployment process has been documented, involving what appears to be a large disc spinning at high RPMs. The spheres are then horizontally ejected through the application of inertia. Once deployed, many of the devices remain in the upper atmosphere while others dive into the ocean, potentially entering a standby mode, poised to power up and engage as required. There it is, guys, again, into the ocean. The ocean is playing a huge part in this that we seem to have ignored up until around this point, or a lot of people have seemed to ignore that up until this point. A little movie recommendation I'm going to go ahead and recommend you guys to go watch is The Abyss by James Cameron. Go ahead and watch The Abyss and then come back to that comment. And so, as advancements in stealth technology allow external crafts to approach closer to Earth's surface, it seems they can sometimes navigate past the Type 1 spheres in the upper atmosphere. However, once these crafts reach lower altitudes, Type 1 spheres appear to effectively swarm and disable them, typically forcing them to land in the ocean. Subsequently, the Tic Tac units appear to retrieve these. Whoa. Okay. He's explaining the Tic Tac. Now, if you guys don't know what the Tic Tac is, that is the UAP that Commander David Fravor of the U.S. Navy was able to tag in his forward-looking infrared system. Infrared camera, basically. The Tic Tac video is legit. It's official. The government doesn't know what it is, or at least they act like they don't know what it is. So let's get back into this. Subsequently, the Tic Tac units appear to retrieve these disabled crafts from their aquatic landing sites for analysis. This analysis process would be crucial as it allows the sphere network to continually enhance its capabilities in response to emerging stealth and propulsion technologies. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the spheres are here to defend us, and if something makes it past the Type 1 spheres high up in the atmosphere, they are brought down eventually, but then they're recovered by the Tic Tac. So the Tic Tac is like a recovery tool, and it is that's just blowing my mind right now, guys. I have to process this for a moment. The fact that this is all tied together is just it's kind of blowing my mind. Let's move on. This retrieval operation appears to be an AI-based hypersonic extraction process involving tic-tac-shaped crafts, which function as automated retrieval units working in conjunction with sphere formations. While these spheres are tasked with destroying or disabling the target craft, the Tic Tacs directly engage by locking onto and extracting the craft from the area. This extraction appears to utilize a sophisticated quantum locking mechanism. The target craft's superconductive shell is encased in a magnetic field, enabling a quantum lock to the Tic Tac. That's a lot to process. It's a lot to process. That's all I'm saying. But no worries, because he then goes to summarize this by saying that overall, the AI system appears to autonomously detect, identify, and intercept external craft, effectively destroying or disabling them before extracting the downed objects and their occupants. However, maintaining and advancing such a system would likely necessitate the continuous involvement of a high IQ, non-human intelligence. And this non-human intelligence group would be operating from concealed infrastructure within mountainous regions or underground facilities. Or maybe the ocean? He didn't say that, but I'm just throwing that in there. It truly makes one wonder who ultimately owns this planet. Well, it's definitely not people like me. Never was, and it probably never will be. So at this point in the book, Patrick Jackson feels like he's got a good handle on what these spheres are and how they work, so his next process was to find a way to bait these spheres out. Basically, trigger these spheres into activating. And so he goes on to say that observations indicate that these UFOs use a field-based propulsion system that interacts powerfully with atmospheric gases, emitting photons much like lightning during electric storms. One of these results is a vibrant electric blue light. Consequently, an unusual or out-of-place atomic level light in our atmosphere might trigger the sphere network. My plan was to create an unconventional, highly focused blue light source, small in scale but intense. The idea was to simulate a scenario in which an external object might breach the UAP sphere network's defenses. In the IT world, this is called spoofing. By generating this concentrated vertical light in an isolated, remote, unexpected spot, I aimed to draw the attention of any airborne observers. The outcome of that test was unforgettable, leaving a lasting impression on me. My goal wasn't merely to trigger the sphere AI. I also wanted to provoke a response from the ultra-terrestrial group themselves. To achieve this, I decided it was best to arrive openly and without any show of hostility, meaning we carried no weapons and avoided face coverings or anything else that could appear threatening. At this point, something occurred that seems technically impossible. The camera was recording at 60 frames per second, and in just a few frames, the vertical light abruptly bent to the right. Simultaneously, a figure appeared about 5 feet tall with a large, elongated head and teardrop-shaped eyes, approaching the strobe and peering into it. He's got a picture here in the book, and again, if you're listening and not watching, it's that looks like an alien. It looks like it's made out of smoke, though. You know, I wish I was there when this image was made. That's all I can say. Because after doing smoke photography, and I'm not calling Patrick Jackson a liar. I'm not saying that he did smoke photography and then, you know, claimed that this was something else. But, you know, this is wild. This is something that I feel like I would have to experience myself to believe it, but here it is. The picture is right here in front of me. And another thing that's crazy is that the camera was recording at 60 frames per second, and in just a few frames, the vertical light abruptly bent to the right. So that's implying that this ultra-terrestrial was able to bend light. Bend light. Now let's just process that for a second. A being that is able to bend light. That is crazy powerful, if you ask me. The being's large eyes suggest a nocturnal nature, and the speed of this event was extraordinary. In real time, we saw nothing out of the ordinary. Only upon reviewing the footage did the situation become clear. It appears the UT group, ultra-terrestrial group, is employing a form of localized time dilation. So that means that they're not just bending light, but they're dilating time. Wow. I have nothing else to say, but just wow. They seem to be able to activate this field around themselves, moving at a normal pace while everyone outside of the field is effectively frozen or operating in extreme slow motion. everything unfolding between the frames of human perception. It is logical to infer that when these spheres detect an anomaly on the ground, a rapid response is triggered involving the dispatch of an entity or object to investigate the situation. So is that what happened to Desi and I in the video where we went to the Briesenlanger forest here in Germany and investigated? We saw this crazy orb. Well, we had 3 sightings, but only 1 out of the 3 sightings was actually unexplainable. If you haven't seen the video, go back and watch that video because it's all about the sphere network as well. It's an interactive, actual paranormal investigation in the forest where we went and looked for these orbs and found 1 or 2. Check it out. But could that be it? What we saw? And if that's the case, that means we were visited by an ultra-terrestrial who observed us without us even knowing, which is creepy. Just to know that they have that kind of power. If this is true, and they have that kind of power, they could do whatever they want with us. And that means they're basically here right under our noses where, they can see us, but we cannot see them. Something to think about. I'm just saying. Where was I here? It is logical to infer that when these spheres detect an anomaly on the ground, a rapid response is triggered involving the dispatch of an entity or object to investigate the situation. The swift nature of this response gives rise to the intriguing possibility that these entities are not of extraterrestrial origin, meaning they may not come from outside our planet, but could instead be described as ultra-terrestrial, indicating that they reside right here on Earth. They are effectively our neighbors that we never see. He then goes on to say that from the facial construct, their eyes are large with large pupils. We see this configuration in nature with nocturnal animals such as owls, galagos, tarsiers, domestic and wild cats, and even frogs. It is logical to assume these ultra-terrestrial beings are also nocturnal, living underground in woodlands, forests, or remote areas. Well, that makes sense because where we had our orb sighting was in a forest. So there you go. Logically, this would mean that there is access points located around the woodlands hidden within the trees, rocks, and bushes. This could explain the missing person phenomena in the US national parks where people may have accidentally strayed into an access point, possibly seeing something that they shouldn't have, only then to vanish, which I think there's something to that. The reality is, the ultra-terrestrial realm and human realms may remain divided by vast differences in intelligence and social understanding. Just as primates cannot fully function within human society, it is improbable that humans could currently integrate into the ultra-terrestrial domain. Navigating that realm currently would likely demand rigorous mental conditioning and discipline and may only be achievable by small groups of highly capable individuals. Consequently, it is plausible that certain select high-functioning individuals have been granted exposure to the ultra-terrestrial realm through covert government projects over the years. That being said, it would be highly likely that there is limited communication and cross-collaboration in mutually beneficial projects. So he basically posits that it's most likely that humans are somehow on some small form interacting with the ultra-terrestrials to maintain this. If I understood that correctly, which I probably did not. Let me know your opinions on that in the comments down below. So up until now, he's basically taken all of the spiritual elements out of poltergeist activity and explained these spheres as drones run by ultra-terrestrials sharing this planet with us. But in chapter 17, he goes into UAPs and faith and how they intersect. And so he says, if these spheres are truly responsible for generating paranormal activity, then perhaps we can trace how long they've been here. One of the earliest recorded instances of such phenomena dates back to ancient Greece, as documented by the Roman author Pliny the Younger. He described a haunted house in Athens where residents were disturbed by the apparition of an old man in chains accompanied by unnerving noises, often regarded as one of history's earliest accounts resembling poltergeist activity. After all, religion can serve as a means to regulate social behavior, forming the legal and ethical frameworks of civilizations. Could these ultra-terrestrials be using some sort of software patch to correct genetic or behavioral disorders? Just as Type 3 spheres appear to use fear-based tactics to steer people away from high-energy emission points, perhaps the fear of a deity was introduced to curb violence and aggression in early human societies. Consider, for example, the following passages from the New American Standard Bible. Daniel 10:7. Now I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, while the men who were there with me did not see the vision. Nevertheless, a great dread fell on them, and they ran away to hide themselves. Acts 18:9. And the Lord said to Paul in the night by a vision, do not be afraid any longer, but go on speaking, and do not be silent. Genesis 15:1. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not fear, Abram. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great. That last one sticks out to me more than the others. Do not fear, Abram. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great. Now, I'm not a religious scholar, so I'm sure someone who's been more involved with studying the Bible as I have will probably tear that apart and dismantle it and say that in this context it's totally wrong. You are free, and you are free to do that. You're free to do that. Go ahead and do that in the comments below. If you want to rebuttal that in any way, I welcome it. So, anyways, he goes on to say that these examples highlight how visual and auditory experiences were often described as divine visions. It's plausible that some of these accounts may have been influenced by an external intelligence capable of transmitting sophisticated sensory manipulations. If so, it implies that whoever engineered the spheres may also have engineered humanity. After all, the ability to induce such experiences would require a deep understanding of human neurology at both electronic and biological levels. If our minds are intricately interconnected with these spheres, then humanity might have been created, or at least modified, for a specific purpose. And this may be the real reason why public disclosure is so stifled. The prevailing narrative typically focuses on extraterrestrials, when the more astounding truth could be ultra-terrestrials, a second species that has long coexisted with us on Earth, possibly predating humanity and quite feasibly creating humanity to serve a role in a shadow of itself. A year before the US UAP hearings, a collection of documents was handed to a US senator, including a diagram I had produced that illustrated and explained the sphere formations and their observed activities. Initially, we planned to hold follow-up meetings and calls to discuss these findings in detail. However, suddenly, all communication ceased. Even a friend of mine who was deeply involved in the situation reported that everyone had gone silent. I had people visiting the senator's office only to be met with excuses and an effective wall of silence. This revelation, when filtered through political systems, creates paralysis. Governments typically sideline or suppress phenomena they cannot tax, regulate, or frame as beneficial to their national interests. I'm going to repeat that one. Governments typically sideline or suppress phenomena they cannot tax, regulate, or frame as beneficial to their national interests. Did you guys hear that? Because that's a nugget of truth. Just saying. The UAP sphere network is not going away. Humanity's behavior, building massive electrified cities, broadcasting countless electronic signals, and deploying unique technologies like intercontinental ballistic missiles has made Earth a beacon in the cosmos. These activities generate distinctive signatures that are easily detectable by advanced external entities. The troubling reality is that the widespread presence of UAP spheres suggests we have already been found. If an advanced group seeks a resource Earth possesses, their arrival may not bode well. The spheres are a sign that someone, or something, is watching, and it's unclear whether their intentions align with humanity's best interests. But this raises a critical question. Where does humanity fit into this cosmic narrative? If ultra-terrestrial superintelligences do indeed reside beneath the Earth, could they have played a role in humanity's creation? There is a provocative theory that suggests these beings may have blended their own DNA with that of primates, resulting in the creation of modern humans through a form of artificial genetic fusion. Such a fusion could have produced beings intelligent enough to fulfill specific roles, but not so advanced as to challenge their creator's superiority. Yet, why would these superintelligences create humans in the first place? What would be their purpose in crafting a hybrid species? Well, the most logical answer might be that the ultra-terrestrials sought to harness the physical attributes of primates: strength, speed, adaptability, and resilience in hostile environments, while retaining enough intelligence to follow orders. The first generations of this genetic fusion could have resulted in enhanced primates capable of performing tasks requiring both intelligence and brute strength. These beings might have served as a private army, a third line of defense in the event that their subterranean creators were ever threatened. If we imagine Earth as a battleground under attack by extraterrestrial forces, the defense system of the ultra-terrestrials could be layered. The first and second lines of defense, perhaps consisting of advanced technological spheres or automated systems, would focus on neutralizing long-range and mid-range threats before they reach the planet's surface. However, if some invaders manage to penetrate these defenses and land on Earth, the genetically enhanced primates or third line of defense would spring into action. Operating as a swarm, these beings would instinctively attack and neutralize anything they perceived as a threat, protecting the physically smaller and perhaps less combat-capable ultra-terrestrials who remained hidden beneath the surface. So we're meat shields. If I'm understanding this correctly, we have been created to be meat shields. Now, I don't speak too greatly of Lou Elizondo, but when he said that the truth was somber, that would be a pretty somber truth, that we are meat shields. But anyways, let's move on. In this scenario, humanity's primitive instincts, aggression, territoriality, and group coordination would serve a strategic purpose. The very traits that might seem irrational or destructive in peacetime would become invaluable during an invasion, as these hybrid beings would fight with relentless efficiency, swarming over any extraterrestrial threat that breached the planet's outer defenses. And that's the terrifying truth, according to Patrick Jackson. So that's obviously a lot to unpack, and you guys have about a week to think about that before the next episode comes out, which in the next episode, we won't be talking about the Sphere Network. We'll be going on to a different subject, but I have to say this. After reading the Sphere Network, it's really difficult not to adopt that and run with it. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to keep my mind open. And that's what this podcast is all about, is keeping an open mind and really searching for the truth and connecting the dots. And as this is only the second episode, there aren't too many dots to connect yet, but I hope that you guys will join me in the journey. So if you're not subscribed, make sure that you are subscribed because you'll be getting new podcasts each week. That have to do with high strangeness in general. And also, it helps out small channels like this, and you'll be helping me reach my goal of 500 subscribers by the end of this month. That being said, that's pretty much the end of this podcast. Thank you for watching it all the way to the end. Hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in next week's episode of Unidentified. Peace.
Every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.